ranging from creatures once thought to be extinct or mythical, and some unsuspecting tiny creatures that can punch like a bullet. This is 50 of the most amazing creatures of the deep. The Peacock Mantis Shrimp. What makes the Peacock Mantis Shrimp so amazing is the fact that it is a brightly coloured creature, whose colour scheme is just so unique that it easily stands out among any other creature of the deep sea. However, its colouring isn't the only thing it's known for, as the mantis shrimp has a very powerful punch that it uses to quickly take down mollusks and crabs. Their punch is so powerful it is often compared to a bullet leaving the barrel of a gun. Pink see-through Fantasia. This creature is known as a sea cucumber, but make no mistake, it isn't a plant. Discovered in 2007, it's a fairly recently discovered creature, and what makes it amazing is the fact that it has see-through skin, which you can easily see its mouth and intestines all the way through to its anus, though it is known to use bioluminescence to ward off predators that seek it. The frogfish. Frogfish are easily overlooked, because this type of fish easily blends into its surroundings, and are extremely hard to see, especially in coral reefs and other types of algae covered rocks where it loves to live, though it can easily live in a lot of other places as well, because they love to mimic every colour and texture imaginable to blend in. The ribbon eel. These creatures are amazing not only because of their bright yellow and blue skin, which starts off black when they're born and gradually changes as they get older, but because they're considered protrandic hermaphrodites, which means they can change their sex from male to female several times throughout their life, and they can either give sperm or lay eggs depending on the gender cycle that they're in. The frilled shark. This creature looks scary, and that's not a coincidence at all, since this type of shark is perhaps one of the most ancient kinds of sharks there are. In fact, their roots extend back 80 million years ago, and there's even evidence that they've been around for as long as 100 million years. Talk about being both scary and amazing for having been around for that long. The Christmas tree worm. This might look like a cute little plant, but it's actually a living, breathing creature of the deep. Scientists discovered this creature off the Great Barrier Reef's Lizard Island, and named it after Christmas trees because of the colourful spiral branches on its sides that are actually used for both breathing and feeding. Box crab. Good luck finding this kind of deep sea creature, as it's very good at hiding. This type of crab enjoys burying itself in the sand with just its eyes protruding through the surface. Once it senses prey up above it, it quickly snaps its claws out of the muck and tries to grab onto it and pull it down into the sand to eat. Not only does the box crab do this as an ambush strategy, this is also very useful for hiding against predators that want to eat it instead. Squidworm. This thing can easily look like two different sea creatures together, but it is in fact a worm. But in actuality, it's just a worm. In fact, the 10 appendages that protrude along its body are tentacles, like receptors, that are used to capture falling, floating debris in the sea for it to eat. This creature lives in the deep, darkest parts of the ocean, somewhat near 2 miles underwater. Giant isopods. These guys love deep, dark, cold water and are also known to get pretty large. Some specimens have even grown up to 3 feet long. These large underwater crustaceans resemble woodworms and typically feed off dead animals that fall down to the ocean surface. What's really amazing is despite being known about since 1879, they're still relatively mysterious creatures that we don't know much about. Nudibranch. What makes the Nudibranch so interesting is the fact that this sea slug has over 3,000 different kinds of species on record, with many more being discovered all the time. Not only that, but they are pretty much found everywhere from the north to the south pole, and from the shallow waters to deep waters, making them perhaps one of the most numerous creatures in the deep seas. I hope you're enjoying the video so far. If you're familiar with my videos, then you'll know that I hide a number upside down somewhere in the video. So, if you're the first to find it, let me know in the comments below, and I'll pin your comment. Let's carry on, shall we? Sea angels. Make no mistakes, these creatures might look sweet, angelic and earthily beautiful, but they are opportunistic predators that fly through the deep Antarctic waters in search of shelled snails to feed on them. And they're not actually fish either, as their tail end is actually a special type of foot extension that they use to propel through the water. They're actually a type of snail themselves that feed on other snails. Gulper Eel, also known as the pelican eel. This type of eel is fascinating because it can unhinge its massive mouth and jaw. Not only that, but it can quickly grow to around 6 feet in length, and it is known for swallowing prey completely whole in its massive mouth. It's surprising that it can quickly grow to over 6 feet in length. Marrus Orthocanna. Lacking a colloquial name, this creature is fascinating because it's a microscopic creature made up of repeating segments and tentacles that have multiple arms, stomachs, and more, all built up into a redundant system. Multiple Marruses even make up larger colonies that resemble a single organism more than its singular part, which makes them so interesting for scientists to research. Giant squid, a creature straight out of nightmares and ancient stories. The giant squid is a rare deep-sea creature that can quickly grow to around 43 feet long, and can probably even grow bigger. Despite being so large and so interesting, scientists don't know much about the reclusive sea creature, other than they sometimes battle with deep-diving whales. Though even that is speculative, as they live so deep in the ocean that we rarely ever see them. The Munnopis Isopod. These small isopods are not only fascinating to learn about, but are extremely ancient as well, believing to be over 300 million years old, making it one of the longest known species on Earth. They have 7 legs and resemble land-based insects more than the crustaceans it's supposed to be, and lives deep in the ocean to points humans have rarely ever been to. The red-lipped batfish. Pucker up. This weird-looking fish comes from the Galapagos area and can be found at the bottom of the ocean there. What makes this creature so interesting, other than its comical appearance that makes it look like it's wearing lipstick, is the fact that it's a fish with legs that it uses to walk along the sandy bottom of its area. The Armoured Snail. While this creature looks like it came out of a fantasy world, it's actually entirely real. This multi-layered shelled snail lives deep in the Indian Ocean, close to the hydrothermal vents where it thrives. This multi-layered look over the snail protects it from the vents, and helps to insulate it from the intense heat. Its shell structure is helping scientists and engineers learn to create stronger materials for many practical applications. Bioluminescent Octopus. One of the only few octopi that uses bioluminescence, this fascinating creature lives about a mile deep in the Gulf of Man, and uses its light emanating organs to fool prey into swimming right into its mouth. The prey, thinking it's safe there, fly right in and the octopus just gobbles it up. What a way to get a free, easy meal. The Flamingo tongue snail. This fascinating creature is as interesting as it is beautiful. You might think that the coloration goes into its shell, but in actuality, it's actually the soft parts of its body that has all the beautiful colours on it. The vampire squid. Despite its name and appearance, the vampire squid actually isn't a squid at all, and is actually classified as its own separate animal despite having 8 arms and 2 tentacles. Also, despite the name, they're not predatory by nature, but are actually pretty passive filter feeders that feed off dead matter that float in their general area. The coffin fish. These creatures are also known as sea toads, and are relatives of the frogfish we've mentioned before. What makes them so interesting is that they have a lot of parts that are similar to a lot of other creatures around them, from having a lure behind their eyes they use to lure prey towards them, to large gills that allow them to increase their size by 30%, to various spines that run along its body. The Leafy Sea Dragon. This beautiful mystical creature is found along the southwestern coast of Australia, and it uses its beautifully embroidered fins to both propel itself through the water and act as camouflage to hide it from predators by resembling seaweed. These creatures are much like seahorses in that they have long snouted faces to suck up prey, and the males carry around the fertilized eggs beneath its tail. The blob fish. Often considered the world's ugliest animal, the blob fish is still nevertheless an incredible sea creature that survives at depths far in excess of 4,000 feet, below sea level where the pressure is 120 times higher than at the surface. Crossota Norvegica jellyfish. This beautiful creature is known for its deep, vivid red colouring, and is regularly seen deep in the Antarctic Canadian basin, found below a depth of 2,500 meters below sea level. While its many whipping tentacles are used to sting prey that get too close to it, it's not exactly clear yet what these creatures actually feed on, though it is speculated to be zooplankton and phytoplankton as well as possibly dead material. The Yeti Crab. This furry crab creature looks highly unusual, as not many sea creatures have a furry, fuzzy look about them. But what makes it so interesting is that not only does this type of crab look interesting, it actually represents an entirely new family type of crabs, and is named after the Polynesian goddess of shellfish. Jawfish. This unusual type of fish is native to the coral reefs of the Caribbean Sea and Western Atlantic, and it's so named because it uses its jaws to scoop up sand and carry eggs in its mouth. Not only that, but its large, powerful mouth is also used as a sort of weapon, used in jousting matches with other jawfish and even mating ceremonies as well. The Vigtorniella Worm. This type of worm is found about half a mile below sea level in Sagami Bay, Japan. and is, like most worms of its type, a bottom feeder that feasts off the dead plants and animals that float down to the bottom of the seabed where it makes its home. However, what makes this creature so interesting is the various tentacles that sprout along its sides, giving it a multi-legged appearance despite the fact that these feelers are mostly used for hunting for food. The Goblin Shark. These creatures sure do look scary, right out of the Book of Monsters. However, what makes this creature so fascinating is its rarity, since it was once considered extinct. So it's not really as numerous as you might have thought. Plus, these sharks can easily grow to be around 15 feet in length, and it's capable of unhinging its jaw to thrust forward and capture its prey. It's an interesting creature that hopefully in the future scientists can study more of. Terrible claw lobsters. Named so because of its fearsome claw that outstretches pretty far, and are used to capture prey from a distance. The scientific term for this creature is Dinochelys ozibili. It's written there because I don't know if I can pronounce it, and is named in honour of Jesse Ozibel, who is the co-founder of the Census of Marine Life. Pycnogonid Sea Spider. This unusual creature isn't really a spider at all, though it has a lot of similarities with its land-dwelling namesake. What makes it so interesting to look at is the fact that it virtually has no abdomen, yet its long legs spread out with an impressive span of around 25 centimeters, making it on par with many different tarantulas on land. Whitemargin Stargazer. Unlike the Blob Fish that's ugly when you pull it out of the water from its living depth, the Stargazer is a fish that's known for being ugly even when it's alive and in its environment. But what it lacks in beauty it makes up for in badassery, as the Stargazer has double-grooved poison spines along its pectoral fins to sting prey to eat, and even has electrical organs behind its eyes to sting prey with 50 volts of bioelectricity. Dumbo Octopus. This interesting creature is found over the mid-Atlantic ridge, where it seems to thrive at depths of over 4,000 meters below sea level, and is named so because of the way it flaps its ear-like fins to swim casually through the water. These creatures have a unique breeding habit where the female carries eggs within them at various developmental stages, and can even store sperm inside of them for extended periods after mating. Arctic Hydromedusa. This deep-sea creature commonly found in the deep waters of the Arctic at depths of around 3,300 feet, and is usually only a few millimeters to centimeters at its largest. What makes this and other Hydromedusas so unique is the fact that they're one of the most common types of sea creatures found, only being beaten out by plankton. The Obese Dragonfish. While this type of fish is called obese, it is actually anything but. The reason it's called that is because it's one of the largest species of its kind, and are excellent swimmers and predators in their own right, owing to their large fang-like teeth and barbed chin protrusions that aid in their hunting at deep waters around Australia, all the way to the Atlantic, Indian and Pacific Oceans. The Hydrothermal vent snail. This type of snail likes to live deep in the ocean at depths where light never reaches its surface, and much like the armoured snail above, is one that lives close to hydrothermal vents to stay warm. What makes the snail so interesting though, is the fact that it's the only individual of its kind that was ever discovered, and was found in the Soyuz seamount of the Tokyo hydrothermal vent near Japan. Red Spotted Blenny. This type of bright colourful fish likes to munch on algae on the sea bottom that it calls home, and are really docile and friendly overall, unless of course you're another member of its species. If you're not the Blenny's mate though, watch out. It can be rather hostile and territorial as it tries to carve out its territory for itself in the coral reef environment, in the Pacific and Indian Oceans. If you're a deep sea diver though, you should be perfectly alright. Japanese spider crabs. These types of spider crabs are found near Japanese waters, hence the name of course, and are extremely huge. Most can grow up to 12 feet long, with some specimens getting even bigger than that. Not only this, but the Japanese spider crabs are extremely ferocious eaters, picking apart other marine animals that they find, and aren't shy about nibbling on other spider crabs that they come across. Squirrelfish. And no, I'm not Doug getting distracted by squirrelfish. This amazing creature might be small, only getting to be about 2 feet in length, but it packs quite the punch in its small frame when it searches for prey to fight and eat. Located at around 100 to 600 feet below the surface, they zip around their sandy seafloor environment and are quite vocal with their swim bladder, using it to communicate with other squirrelfish. The porcupine fish. These fish are pretty similar to their cousins, the pufferfish, in that they can inhale a vast amount of water to puff themselves up and look a lot bigger than they really are. Like the pufferfish, this creature is also covered in strong spines that make it hard for any predator to want to take a bite out of it. And even if they did, they'd find that the porcupine fish is full of poison. No thank you. Delicate claw crustacean. This new type of crustacean was recently discovered off the Great Barrier Reef off Lizard Island, and already it's shown why it's considered a pretty amazing creature. Its claws are so delicate that it can easily use them to rip off and run away, much like a crab would. Also because the outer shell of this crustacean is relatively soft, almost giving it a translucent appearance. Mimic octopus. While octopi are masters at blending in their surroundings and hiding from predators, the mimic octopus takes this skill much further and is known for impersonating not only the random environments that it lives around, the Indo-Pacific Ocean, but also for being able to mimic other marine animals as well. In fact, it's so good at impersonating other deep-sea creatures that it sometimes hides itself as a mating female of various fish and crab species that it hunts, and nabs any unwitting males as soon as they show up. Thornback cowfish. What makes this type of fish really interesting is the fact that despite it having horns at the top of its head, it doesn't actually use them when fighting other fish. The horns are purely decoration that is used in mating rituals. Something really strange with this creature is that it can actually turn its toxicity on and off, only turning it on when it's in a stressful situation or when it dies so predators get sick if they eat it. Lysanassoid amphipod. This amphipod makes its home near Elephant Island Deep in the Antarctic Ocean, where it likes to reside in the cold. What makes this creature so interesting, like many new amphipods of its type, it resembles a flea that lives in the ocean and is so numerous that they are a big source of food for many larger creatures of the deep that prey on it. The parrotfish. Such interesting looking creatures. It's about 1 to 4 foot in length, and its most distinctive feature has to be the fused teeth at the front of their mouth, which makes it look like the parrotfish has a big smile on its face. Not only that, but they're scattered in so many different coral reefs all over the world's ocean and are some of the toughest fish to ever live. So tough that many predators have a tough time piercing through its scales. The sea pen. This sea creature actually isn't a singular creature, but is actually a colony of animals that are all grouped together like cells that can work individually but work better as a group and act almost like a singular organism. What makes the sea pen so unique and interesting though is that it can withdraw into soft sediments where it's generally found, and the large quill-like appendage are used to filter out nutrients from the surrounding waterscapes around it. Metasuades. This creature is possibly an entirely new species that was found in abundance all along the coral rubble at Ningaloo, Western Australia. What makes them so interesting for marine biologists is the fact that they are an arthropod, much like insects, crustaceans, spiders, and more found deep in the Australian waters. While there are many that exist, this new type has certain qualities that scientists are just now discovering, that make them entirely different and unique from other sea-based arthropods. The Napoleon wasi. This creature is fairly large, clocking in at over 2 meters in length. The Napoleon wasi is one of the largest reef-bearing fish found around the Indian and Pacific Oceans, usually in warm waters. While it's named Napoleon, its bright blue facial colorization more resembles Maori war paint over any European emperor. Plus, what makes the facial markings so interesting is the fact that they're entirely unique to each individual wasi, making them stand out from one another. Sea nettles. Sea nettles are fascinating because they breed so fast that their environment can easily be overtaken in just a few breeding cycles. Plus, they're one of the few jellyfish in the world that tend to swarm together, and are often found off the coast of California, where they typically wash up on the beaches there. Though, thankfully they're not too dangerous for humans, as they do have a sting that they use to capture prey with that's not powerful enough to hurt humans who swim too close to them. The Venus flytrap anemone. This anemone is more related to a jellyfish than anything else, and it is found in the waters of the Gulf of Mexico. What makes these things so interesting is just how they capture their prey. They close their tentacles just like fly traps when anything enters into its mouth, and it keeps them there as it consumes them. It might be a bit dark, but it's kind of fun to watch. The black swallower. This large fish is pretty crazy to look at and is found deep in the dark parts of the ocean, often in places of excess of 4,000 feet below sea level, where it is pitch black and the light cannot reach it. What makes these things stand out though is its large extended stomach beneath the fish that it uses to house prey that it catches, prey that is often much larger than itself, an adaptation that works well for it given the scarcity of food at such an oceanic depth. If you'd like to see more, then check out this video, 50 amazing facts that you won't believe are true. Thanks for watching, I'll see you around with the next video.